sets and backgrounds. This will show you how to break apart things, to move things, so that you can delete certain items from your landscape um, to create something your own and unique.
I'm creating a comic in Pixton, and I'm going to show you how to work with prop sets and custom backgrounds. Prop sets and custom backgrounds are simply groups of props that I save so I can easily reuse them. Let's say I want to create a palm tree. I start with some basic shapes, and I compose the tree in a new comic panel. There are two ways I can save a new prop set. One way is to hold down the Shift key and click on each and every prop I want to include, and then click this button. The second and easier way is to make sure nothing is selected, and then click this button. This takes all the props in the panel and turns them into a prop set. Just be sure that none of the props touches the panel border, otherwise it'll be saved as a background instead. I give my prop set a name, then I click Save. Now my prop set works just like a single prop. I can select it, resize and rotate it. I can change its color. I can turn it into a silhouette, and if I unsilhouette it, it returns to its original colors. Just like a prop, I can double-click on the resize box to snap it to its default size, and I can double-click on the rotate box to snap the prop set to the nearest 45-degree angle. I can also right-click on it to duplicate it. My prop set now appears in my prop set library, which I can access by clicking the Add Prop button and selecting My Prop Sets from the drop-down. I can delete a prop set from my prop set library by clicking the small X. If I delete a prop set, it does not affect any comics where I've already put it. Similar to a prop set is a custom background. Let's say I want to create a desert island background that I can easily reuse. I start by composing the background in a panel. This time it's important that some part of the background touches one or more edges of the panel. This is how Pixton knows that I'm trying to save a background rather than a prop set. In this case, both the sun and the water touch the border. When I'm happy with my background, I click this button to save it. When saving a background, Pixton ignores any characters in the scene and also any props that overlap characters. In this case, the soccer ball. Let's say I also want to exclude the middle palm tree from my saved background. To do this, I click on the tree to select it, and I click the Lock button. Now when I go to save the background, as you can see, the middle tree is not included because I've locked it. So I give my background a name, and I click Save. My background now works just like a prop set. So I can rotate it, resize it, I can change its color, I can turn it into a silhouette, I can flip it, apply a blur, and more. I can find all the backgrounds I've saved in my background library, which I access by clicking the Add Background button and then selecting My Backgrounds from the drop-down. If I need to break apart a prop set or a background, I select it and click the Break Apart button. This is useful if you need to adjust something in the prop set or save a variation on an existing prop set. Once I've made the necessary adjustments, I can simply resave it as a new prop set or background. Finally, to share my prop sets or custom backgrounds with others, I simply include them in a comic and make the comic remixable. Anyone who remixes the comic will then be able to use, break apart, and resave a copy of any prop sets in the comic.
Okay, so if we're creating a comic, I have my image here, or my comic here. Let's try it this way. Make sure we're clicking on the one that we already started working. You don't want to have 40 million of these open up. patient with our internet. It's not the fastest all the time. Once in here, I'm going to add a background. Say I want to do this farmhouse one. Okay, and let's say I don't want this windmill here. I'm going to click on my background so it's in blue, and then I go to these 3 little hexagons and I break it apart. And this breaks everything apart into all the little pieces that made up that scene. I click off of it and I come back. Maybe I want this to be over here. Maybe I want it to be smaller. And then I can just start to edit and delete them and move them as I would like it to be. Make trees bigger and so forth. And then I have a totally different scene than what I had before. Now, one thing I will show you is, let's say I want this to be larger. It's not going to let me. That's rotating it. Let's add another one. It'll automatically add the same one from before. I guess it's not going to let me change the size of this. There's usually arrows here, and you can drag it out. And you can change the width of your actual item. Make sure we're clicking the Save panel often, because our internet goes a little weird sometimes. This will ensure that I can make sure that I'm saving each thing I do. Also, if we look here, my tree is in front of this path. If I would like to send it back, it was a small change, but it put that back into space. Let's say I want this tree here to go behind the path. I can move it back, and I keep putting it back into space. And now it's behind the clouds and everything else. So you can edit and move things and bring them forward, different layers there. Once that's done, I hit save, and I'm good